knitting friends, I'm back. Hopefully the light is okay in here today. Springtime in Calgary never disappoints, and it is pretty much blizzarding outside right now. And so there's not a lot of sunlight, and I really wanted to sit here in this part of my knitting room again because it just kind of feels like the coziest place to sit and chat with all of my knitting friends. I do have the window blinds open, but I do have the light on in the room, so hopefully that doesn't make everything too orangey. I'm just trying to make it easier for my phone to focus on me, and so it's not, the video quality isn't super grainy. Anyway, hi, allow me to introduce myself. My name is Melissa. This is the Stitches Be Slippin' podcast / YouTube channel, mainly about knitting, but sometimes other things. I do lots of whatever grabs my attention and takes me down the rabbit hole. I have ADHD, so I get easily distracted. And yeah, I live in Calgary, Alberta, Canada, with my husband and my 2 kids. They are 9 and 11 now, both boys. We're very busy, but yeah, I am going to try to start with knitting content and all that kind of stuff first, and then life at the end. There's quite a few life updates and that kind of stuff, and I feel like it would be obnoxious to make you guys sit through all of that before getting to the knitting. So the knitting content is again a little bit light because of these bad boys, but they're better today. I'll put that in my life update at the end. I will try to keep the life and the knitting and stuff separate. A lot of it feels so intertwined to me that it's hard to separate them out, but I'll do my best. Yeah, so it's been, I don't know, I think 3 weeks-ish. I think the last time I podcasted, I don't even know what was happening. I don't even know, I don't remember. But I have written down all the things that happened in between then and now, what I have knit, what I've been working on. Yeah, so let's get into it. First of all, what I'm wearing. Did I say it? Yeah, I said Stitches Be Slippin' podcast. You can also find me at Stitches Be Slippin' on Instagram, which is where I am the most active on social media. I don't have Facebook. I don't have Twitter or X or whatever that psycho calls it now. Yeah, I do have a Ravelry account, but I don't really ever use it. The only thing I use Ravelry for is finding and downloading patterns. I don't really, unless I'm doing a test knit, which I don't do very often, then I'll post my project there, but I don't really post anything on there. So yeah, it is what it is. I have too many things going around in my brain to be like constantly updating 10 million social media platforms and Ravelry and all those things. So I post my stuff to Instagram, and that's where you can find me, and you can find me here on YouTube occasionally. Anyway, I'm just blabbering. What I'm wearing today is, this is kind of like an homage to my very first episode ever. I was wearing, not this because this is new, but I was wearing like a denim shirt. I'm pretty sure I was wearing these glasses, and I had this, I was wearing this, but it was like in my hair and I was being a total idiot. So, but that's how I drew you all in, because I was being an idiot and you were all laughing at me, and then they're like, maybe she's cool. Anyway, this is the only knitting that I'm wearing today, but it is the Sophie scarf by Petite Knit. As I've mentioned in a few episodes, I don't tend to knit a lot of Petite Knit patterns just because she has been very resistant to updating her patterns to be truly size inclusive. They're getting there slowly. Anyway, it's a whole thing. So I try to avoid them whenever possible. I've had this pattern for a really, really long time before all of that kind of surfaced. So anyway, it is what it is. I made this with one skein of Classic DK from Polka Dot Creek in the colorway Spicy Mustard. Sorry, the DK Tweed. This is a tweed. So you can see the little tweed flex, whatever you want to call them in there. I am also wearing this says, "You are safe with me." Pride flag, trans flag, because if you've been here long enough, you know that I don't put up with hate. I don't put up with bullshit. If you think that other people's rights should be taken away because of what you believe in personally, then that's garbage, and you can just keep walking and skip along. There's other crazy people on the internet, I'm sure, that you can find. Or you could have an open mind and start learning about things that you feel uncomfortable with. And if you feel you need some resources, hit me up. I'll set you up. Anyway, this is not looking good for the brain today, but I did take my meds, so here's hoping. Oh, also, I don't know if you noticed, I chopped a whole bunch of my hair off. It was like about 6 inches probably. I told her I wanted it a lot shorter, as short as possible, while still being able to like pile it up on top of my head. So this is where we landed. I've never had my hair this length on purpose before. Like, it was always like in the middle of growing it out to be long. I still haven't really figured out what to do with it. It looks okay today. I still have like the whole bang situation, so we're still working that out, but yeah, it looks okay today. When we were on our trip, it was massively out of control. I wanted to cut it before we went on our trip. Here's a little life update. We went to Colombia on holidays, but I couldn't imagine going down there in that heat and humidity and having that giant pile of hair to deal with, so I cut it all off before we left. Anyway, surprise. Okay, so, also I was gonna say, if you don't want to, if you really like this pattern, the Sophie scarf pattern, it is really cute. It is very versatile, very wearable. You can make different sizes, you can use different yarn, whatever. I did find, I was looking for patterns on, like scarf patterns on Ravelry the other day, looking for ideas for teacher knits. I'll get into that later. But I did find a great alternative to this. It looks almost exactly the same, and it's a free pattern on Ravelry. So it's called The Simple Thing, and it's by Melina Brella, I think is how you pronounce her name. I'll put a link to that down below. I, as always, will put a link to all patterns, designers, makers, whatever. Everything I mentioned will be in my notes below. So yeah, free pattern. It looks, I mean, I didn't look into it. I didn't download the pattern and read it word for word, but it looks almost identical to this. So there you go. I have 3 FOs to show you. They're all pretty small, but 3 FOs is pretty good. So I think last time I had don't know if I had cast this on yet. I'm pretty sure I had ripped out what I was making with it before. I didn't bring the yarn tag with me, but I'm pretty sure I remember. So I ripped out, I was making, I think I was trying to make a muscle bra with this, which is the hat pattern by Isolde Teague. And then I decided it was gonna be way too thick. So I ripped it out and I made this guy. This is a free pattern. It is, oh shoot, I didn't write it down. I think I talked about it in my last episode because I showed what I was going to be making with it. It's called Jason's Cashmere Hat, and it's by Melissa, I think her last name is Thompson, maybe? I'll put a link down below. It's she's the dyer behind Sweet Fiber, and I think she designed this hat with her cashmere worsted base. But I'll put a link down below. I think there is a link on Ravelry, but then when you go to download the pattern, it takes you to her blog. So I'll just skip the middleman and put the link to her blog down below with the pattern. So yeah, it worked out really well. The yarn is Walcott yarns in their Origin base, which is a worsted weight base, and the color is Ponderosa. So it worked out well. It could be longer. I got tired of knitting it, which sounds bad. I get tired of knitting pretty much every project. So when it's like kind of like real beanie, like it's not super, I also have this like little ponytail up here, but I don't know, I would prefer, I probably just should have done the ribbing like double, but if I did the ribbing longer, because you do this much ribbing, that's for sure gonna be my screenie, my thumbnail, whatever you want to call it. Anyway, Dave tried it on and he thought it might be okay for him, like sort of watch cap style, beanie, whatever. It's cute. If I did it again, it's not a hard pattern. Whoa, didn't look at myself there. It's not a hard pattern at all. So if I were to make it again, I would probably make this section a little taller and I would make the ribbing longer, probably double. And then I would have lots of room. But yeah, it's a great pattern. Great, very easy to follow, easy to do. Okay, check, FO number 1. Then after that, I cast on, here's another one that I was making a muscle bra with. And then I decided I wanted to make a bralette with it instead. So I ripped out the muscle bra that I had started. I hadn't gotten very far on it. And I just wanted something quick, and I was just in the mood for something like quick and satisfying to knit. So I landed on the Ripple Bralette pattern by Jessie Martinson. She's Jessie Made with a whole bunch of S's on Instagram. Everybody knows, yeah, like I'm sure you've heard of her. Anyway, this is, it looks like a little doll bra, but I'll post a picture here. I took a picture of, well, I had my husband take a picture of me wearing it on the deck in our hotel room in Colombia. It fits really well. It, I mean, wool against the naked breast is a little itchy, especially when it's like 34 degrees and 100% humidity. So I didn't wear it a lot, but I did wear it a little bit. So yeah, the yarn is the Woolen Frog, which is Carol, and I don't know why, I'm so sorry, Carol. I'm quite certain it's Carol, but it's probably not because I keep saying Carol. I always want to call her Wendy. I don't know why. I have no idea why. And then I have to stop and think, I don't think it's Wendy, I think it's Carol. And then I think, but what if it, anyway, I'm pretty sure it's Carol, sorry. I just have like, and it's like, not like, I've talked to her so many times. I've been to her store. She used to have a brick and mortar store in Medicine Hat. Now she's online. I've talked to her. She's sent me stuff. She like, I just have, do you have those mental blocks where no matter how many times you're like, it's this, it's this, it's this, it's this. Every single time you go back to it, you're like, oh, I can't remember. Maybe it's just the way that my brain works. Once I get something in there that I'm confused about, I will be confused about it for the rest of my life. So yeah, anyway, this is the Woolen Frog yarn. And the colorway is called, I've mentioned this a few times before on previous episodes. I believe it's Hot Pink 80s Disco. It's something about 80s and hot pink, or neon pink and disco. I'll put a link to the listing for this actual colorway down below so you can find it. But yeah, it was very, Jessie May's patterns are so easy to follow. Like it's a lot, like, especially when you're making like a bralette, there's a lot of times where you're putting stitches on hold and then just working here and then just working here, and then doing straps and whatever. But very, very easy to follow. She's an excellent pattern writer, very clear. I think I said everything I needed to say about that, I think. And then after I finished that, I took a number of projects, yarns, etc. with me on our trip. But unfortunately, I was hoping that the heat would be good for my hands. But unfortunately it just, the heat and the humidity just made them just go, and they like, all of my fingers doubled in size. I was like, had massive sausage hands pretty much the whole time we were there. So knitting was almost entirely out of the question the entire time we were in Colombia. But I was determined. I cast on this hat, which is basically just all stockinette. Takes up almost an entire skein of fingering weight yarn. So it's sort of, it's not a musselburgh because you're not like knitting a tube from one end to the other. It's more like an Oslo hat, if you're familiar with that pattern from Petite Knit, where you knit a certain, like you cast on, you knit a certain amount, then you fold over and attach it, and then it's like, I mean, it's a pay pattern, so I'm not going to give it all away. But I started working on that. It was just, since it was just stockinette, so whenever my fingers were like, whenever we were in the hotel room in the air conditioning for a while and I felt like maybe I could bend my fingers a little bit, then I would work on it. And then when we were, after Colombia, we stayed in Toronto for a few nights, and then they got a little bit better, so I kept working on it. And then since we've been home, anyway, I'll talk about it in my life section. I did finish this yesterday. This is called the Brownstone Beanie, yes, by Tori Yu. She is Tori Knits NYC on Instagram. And it looks a little funny right now because I haven't blocked it, so the decreases look weird. But yeah, it's one of those ones. So it's, you cast on and you do like a million inches. It felt like this part took the longest because this part is fingering weight on its own, one strand of fingering weight. And then once you fold it over, then you add an extra strand, so you're holding your fingering weight double. So you do a little decrease so that your hat doesn't get like way wider there. When you add an extra strand, you go up to a larger needle, and then you're knitting here, and then you turn around and knit the other way, and it's very, very similar to the Oslo hat. The thing that kind of sets Tori Yu's hat patterns apart are the decreases up here, which I wanted to block this before I did this, but I just finished it yesterday and I knew it wouldn't be ready for me to show yet today. So I'll put a picture up here. That's probably a better idea of what her samples look like. So after you block it and it's sitting properly, then it sits with that sort of like, I don't know, sort of like peak at the top that is really popular in hat toque, like commercial toques and stuff that people wear now, hats, sorry, my Canadian's showing. Anyway, I tried it on the other day. I had this whole ponytail thing situation going before too. So you can't really see, but it like, yeah, it looks weird, but it will look better after blocking. So yeah, the thing, I'm hoping that after blocking that this part will sit down a little bit. This is the reverse stockinette part. And this is where, no, this is, I don't know. That's the one thing that I don't like about the whole like folded up and then reversed and then whatever. It feels like it doesn't sit properly here. But I think once this like ridge settles down after blocking, then it'll be better. And yeah, and that will look better. I'll take better pictures once it's blocked. But I really like this color. Let's fix the hair again. This yarn is, I got this yarn in our Christmas yarn swap that we do at the knit night that I go to. And the yarn is, it's a fingering weight yak base. And it's from Dyed by Dells in Montreal. I don't think it's called that anymore. I think it's just called, I think the yarn might just be called Les Garçons yarn now. I'm not sure. Maybe it's still called, I don't know. Anyway, it's their yak sock base, and it's 70% superwash merino and 20% yak and 10% nylon. So it's a very light fingering weight. It's 437 yards, which I really like when I'm making hats. I really like the lighter fingering weight. I'm looking at this because I have another skein of it that I got at a different swap. I don't know why I have so much of this yarn, but I've never actually purchased it. This is called Cardi's Ochre. This is just another skein of that same base. That's why I didn't, I got these, I got two skeins of this color actually in that yarn swap. And this is how I got them. Thank you, Justine. I'm not complaining. But I didn't like have a tag, but luckily I had this from last year, so I could tell you what the base is. And so I don't know what the name of the colorway is, but it's a really beautiful, yeah, the light isn't the greatest in here to show you the actual color of it. That's kind of blowing out and not looking at all. It's a really beautiful, like bluey gray. So it may be Meredith's Gray. I know that's one of their colorway names. I'm not sure, but it's really pretty. I really like it. Yeah, I think that was all I had to say about that. So I have some whips to show you. Trying to figure out what I should do first. Okay, one of the projects that I took, I know I talked on my last episode about my plans for knitting for teachers for the end of the year. So I showed this and I took it with me. I'm planning on making another Sophie scarf like this with this. This is Fingering Way Lilac Bush colorway from Polka Dot Creek. So I'm just going to hold this double and make a Sophie scarf with it. I did get that started in Columbia, but I think I'm gonna rip it out and restart it actually, because the needle size that the pattern calls for, I feel like it feels really tight and stiff and I don't really want it to be like that. So I think I haven't gotten very far. So I'm just gonna rip it out and cast it back on with some bigger needles. The pattern calls for 3.5 millimeter. And that's just with that worked out fine with regular DK weight, but this is fingering weight held double. So it just is a little bit thicker and more stiff. So I think I'm gonna recast it on either with a 4 millimeter or 4.5 millimeter, just so that it's not sticking straight out when she's wearing it. So it just has some drape and we'll sit down a little bit. Yeah, so not much else to say about that. That's a very brand new baby whip. And I might as well talk about the other teacher I was going to talk about I'm planning, I was going to make my older son's teacher a cross stitch like I made for their other teachers last year, but I don't like my fingers. I don't think I have it in me to do cross stitching. I just don't have the grasp strength in my fingers. So she's gonna get knitting, I think. I was looking for, my older son's teacher wears scarves sort of like this, but longer. So she wears long scarves. Tate is my oldest son. He says that she wears them almost every day. So I was looking for a pattern that's sort of like this, but this scarf, I don't really want to take it off, but it starts skinny and then you're increasing on one side until you get to the middle and then you're decreasing on that same side. And I just want one that I can just cast on and increase on both sides until I get to a certain point and then just knit without having to count rounds and decreases and increases and stuff. So I think I have found, where is it? I think I've found a pattern. I will put, what was it? I think it's by Along Avec Anna, and can't remember the name of it. I'll put a picture up here and I'll put a title here with the actual name of the pattern because it's escaping me right now. I think it's Sweet Scarf or something. It's just a simple, you start at the bottom, increase out, and garter stitch for however long you want. There's two different sizes. There's a small and a large. I think I'll probably do the small one. The large one is quite wide and I just want to do a fairly narrow. I don't want her, she wears it at school every day. So if she's wearing it at school and I don't want it drowning her. Anyway, I'm planning on making that with this yarn. And this is, I've had this in my stash for quite a long time, back when I still ordered yarn from the US before I learned my lesson. This is from, it's called Little Skein Anne. Little Skein in the Big Wool. I think her name has changed. I've had this for so long. It's either Little Skein or Little Skein Anne or something. I'll put a link down below to her actual shop now. And it's called, it's a 400 yard 80/20 South Superwash. Does anyone else do that? When you look at Superwash, do you think Southwest? Does anyone else do that? Every single time, every single time. So this is 80% Southwest Merino and 20% nylon. This was part of her holiday 2019 and Phenomenal Woman collection, and the colorway is called Blue Christmas. So it's a really nice, like, light blue, and it's got some really light speckles in it. And so that is my plan for the other teacher. And those are living in this beautiful bag that I've showed a number of times, but I am obsessed with. This is from Creek Gardens Crafts, and it's beautiful Tula pink fabric, and it's got the pinks and the purples and the greens, and I just love it. Okay, so I showed teachers, okay. My biggest whip that I've been forcing myself to work on since we got home, because I'm on sleeves and I fucking hate knitting sleeves. I think I say that every time I'm on sleeves, but I really do. I hate knitting sleeves. I can't remember what state the sweater was in when I showed it to you last time. I can't remember if I had finished the body. I don't know. It's the front porch sweater. I did not write anything down today. My notes, I wrote down this, I can't remember what the name is. He is called Pearl Jam on Instagram, but I will put a link to the pattern on Ravelry below so that you can see who the designer is. But it's an all over cable sweater. So I finished the body, and then I blocked it like crazy because I wanted to make sure, like, with the ribbing and the cables, everything was like sucked in, and I wanted to make sure that it was going to fit. So then I wet blocked it, and yeah, it fit fine. I can't remember if I showed that. Anyway, I took pictures, before and after pictures. I put it on before I blocked it, and then I put it on after I blocked it, and it was like a million times better. So after I did that, I picked up and knit the collar, and when I folded it over, it's a fold over collar, I was a little aggressive with it's a little tight, but it's okay. So yeah, I finished the body, I finished the collar, and now I'm on a sleeve. I've picked up and I'm working on the sleeve, and I'm hating life because I hate knitting sleeves, and I did this was like all fucking day yesterday working on this sleeve. Why? I don't know. So the part of the problem is I'm having to keep track of which round I'm on in the cable repeat, and then which round I'm on in the decrease repeat. I had to do a little bit of figuring things out because the way that the sleeve is written in the pattern, I was like, nope. He wanted like to pick up, the armhole is quite big, so I made the decision to not pick up as many stitches as he instructed to in the pattern. And then you're supposed to knit like for a long ways, just straight. And then after you finish that amount, then all of a sudden you're like rapidly decreasing. And I was like, that's gonna look super weird. So I'm just kind of doing my own thing here. I've decided on my own decrease ratio, and I've started from the beginning. So hopefully it will have like a normal decrease sleeve if I ever finish it, because I don't want to knit the sleeves. Anyway, let's talk about this beautiful yarn. This yarn is The fingering weight yarn is Pistachio from Polka Dot Creek, and I'm holding it together with Surrey Alpaca, also from Polka Dot Creek. And this colorway was sort of a one-off when they had some dye left over and just poured it on, and this is what happened, and it was beautiful. So that is that. And yeah, this is living in my Fringe Supply Company bag that Shelly from Polka Dot Creek gave me for my birthday last year. And I have, you can't buy these anymore, don't try. I'll put the link down below. As I do every time, you can still buy the pattern and you can buy kits to make them yourselves. But Fringe Supply Co. doesn't exist anymore. They don't make the bags anymore, but you can buy the kit and the pattern from Grain Line Studio, and I'll put that link below. Again, I have a little Notions ring on here from Ocean Loops with Lolly. She's a local stitch marker, notion maker, beautiful. And look, it matches my whip. Isn't that cute? Ah, I love it when that happens. I might have done it on purpose. What's better? What's better than having like stitch markers that match and notions that match your whip? Like, it's so good. I don't like it if the project that's in the bag doesn't like go with the bag somehow, like color family, or just like if I put something in a bag that clashes with the bag, I can't. It just doesn't, I can't. My brain can't handle it. Yeah, my only other, I shouldn't say my only other whip, because there's other, we talked about this last time when someone asked me if I have a pile of just old whips, let's say. Anyway, I can't know, where was I in my blanket last time? I think I was almost done the yellow stripe. Yellow was April. So this is the Blanket Club, which you get 9 colors a month of 10 gram minis from Polka Dot Creek. And I am using them to make the Sweet Shop blanket by Laura Penrose. I haven't made a lot of progress. I'm not going to show the whole blanket again because that's a whole thing. That's a whole schmozzle. I think I was pretty close to being done the yellow stripe last time. And I have started on June. Last night, I finally, well, not finally, today is only April 4th. So yesterday was April 3rd and I posted the reel of my April stripe because I couldn't wait. I took a video of my March stripe, which was all the orange colors, and then it disappeared from my phone somehow. So I had to like wait all of March because I didn't have a reel. Like, I had this plan of like posting a reel every month of the stripe for that month and then whatever. And then my phone just like didn't keep the video from March. So I had to wait a really long time, and I made it 3 days into April before I posted. So I just posted that yesterday. Anyway, that was up to April. April was all the peaches, and you've seen it. I mean, if you were watching here, you've seen it all. And then I finished the yellows, which was May. And then I have started on June, which is the greens. And they look really, really good so far. I really like the greens beside the yellows. Yellows, not necessarily a color I gravitate towards, but there are lots of really pretty yellows in here, and there are a lot of really pretty greens in here. So I'm very excited about this. I really, really love this blanket. However, if any of you follow Laura Penrose, you will know that she is trying to fuck with my head and try to make me make another blanket. She is currently in, I don't know if she's in testing or if she's just doing her sample. I think she has some people like kind of test knitting as she's making her sample of this new blanket. But I'll see if I can find some pictures from her Instagram. She's basically making quilt blocks, like similar to these, where you're just doing half square triangles, really, but like putting them in different placements so they look like quilt blocks. I hadn't really been following along that closely, and then I watched her podcast just recently in the last couple weeks, and she was showing all of her blocks that she has made, and I shit you not, I was like, I'm just gonna rip out everything I've already done in my sweet shop blanket and make that instead with the blanket clubs, because holy Christ, it is beautiful. I'm not actually gonna do that. Like, I have spent a lot of time on this blanket already, and all the ends are woven in. Like, I'm weaving in ends after every block so that I don't have that to deal with at the end. But it's really, really, really making me consider make another blanket. But I don't know how I could do that. It's so much yarn. It's so much yarn. I talked about this before. I think, what was the actual number that I came up with? I think it's like 22 skeins of fingering weight yarn this beast is going to be at the end. That's not what she calls for in her blanket sample in this pattern. The sweet shop blanket is less because the size that she made is less. I'm making a slightly bigger, different shape. Hers is square. Mine is 9 across, and it's going to be 9 blocks across because you get 9 colors every month. And then it's going to be 12 rows because there's 12 months. So anywho, it's an excellent use of the yarn that you get in the blanket club because you get 10 grams of each color. And I have maybe 1 gram left. Maybe. They're just like tiny little pieces at the end of each color. And then obviously the other half of each block is just undyed yarn. So yeah, that's living in my big blue mama basket that I got from Creek Gardens Crafts also. Gorgeous colors. They only sell that, she only sells those in store at Polka Dot Creek because they're a bitch to ship. So yeah, I think those were all my whips that I had. I do have a few acquisitions to show you. And then my knitting content will be over, and then I'll tell you all about my life. Isn't that exciting? Yeah, so after we came home from Columbia, we went to Columbia for a week, and then on our way home, we had to fly through Toronto. So we decided, well, let's just add Toronto. Well, we stayed in Toronto for 3 nights on our way home and then flew home. So it wasn't just a massive travel day trying to get home. So I took that opportunity I got in touch. I have an Instagram friend that I've chatted with for a long, long, long time named Sheena, and she is This Girl Knits on Instagram. We have lots in common. We both love hot pink. We both are very invested in social justice and social human rights and all that kind of stuff, and we chat on Instagram a lot. So as soon as I knew that we were staying in Toronto for a couple nights, I messaged her and I was like, I think we're gonna be here. I think I might have time on this morning. If you might want to go to a yarn store with me, maybe we can go for coffee and then go to a yarn shop. And thankfully she was available, so we got to meet up at we met up at this coffee shop that had like gluten-free treats, and they had vegan donuts. And like I had a gluten-free carrot loaf with cream cheese icing. It was it was amazing. We had some tea, we knitted, we chatted, and then we walked a few blocks down to Unit Toronto, which I've mentioned on this podcast before. It's where I ordered my Amapola cardigan kit from, and they have I don't know what the deal is. If Claudia Quintanilla is a designer, and she designed the Amapola cardigan. She has a whole bunch of other designs that Unit Toronto carries. I don't know if she is involved in the ownership of the store or if she is just their exclusive designer, or I'm not sure what the relationship is there. Yeah, I've made her Amapola cardigan twice, and anyway, it was a beautiful store, beautiful. They have a lot of really gorgeous stuff. They had a lot of La Bien-Aimée. They had a lot of Knitting for Olive. They had a lot of really high-end yarns. They also had a lot of more commercial, more affordable yarns. Lots and lots and lots of samples. which is amazing. I'm a sucker for buying a kit when I see a sample that I love. You'll see that in a second. One thing I was on the hunt for, I knew that they carried Knitting for Olive, and having just been in Colombia where it was 33 to 35 degrees Celsius every day with like 100% humidity. I had taken a few of my summer tank tops that I've knit in like summery, linen-y type yarns, and they were both beige, like neutral beige, whatever. And just walking around in Colombia, everyone else walking around in Colombia was wearing like bright colors and bright pinks and bright reds and bright, like just beautiful saturated colors. And so I was like, I need to make myself some summer tops with some beautiful saturated colors. And I've seen a lot of people lately knitting things with the blood orange color from Knitting for Olive. In particular, Emily, the botanical knitter, just made I think it's called the small fry scarf that Samantha Guerin just came out with, and she made hers with Knitting for Olive. I think it was their fingering merino base, or I can't remember what base she used, but in this blood orange color, and I just loved it. And so I knew Unit Toronto had Knitting for Olive. I looked it up beforehand. I knew they had what I was looking for. I wanted a spring summer base, so I got the Pure Silk, which is their fingering weight base, and I got 3. Oh my god, it's so pretty. I love it so much. This is not a color I normally gravitate towards, but I just think it's just gonna make the most beautiful summer like tank top. Yeah, I love it. So Pure Silk, as the name implies, is 100% Bourette silk, and it is 250 meters for 50 grams. So it's a nice fingering weight. I've seen a lot of people knit with this base, and it's not a crunchy silk. It feels really nice. So I'm excited to work with it. I have actually a few balls of this same base, this Pure Silk base, in a blue color that I might also make a tank top with. My husband gave me for our anniversary last year, because I think it was like the traditional or modern or whatever was like silk or linen or whatever, so he just went and found a store that had silk yarn and bought it for me. So he's a good boy. Anyway, so now since I got home, I've been going down the Ravelry rabbit hole trying to find summer tank top patterns that I like. It's difficult to find summer tank top patterns that are size inclusive. There are a lot of European designers that make summer tank tops, and in general, not all, but in general, a lot of European knitwear designers are not very size inclusive. I always click through just in case to see, but yeah, there was one that I really, really, really loved that had like a leafy lace pattern with buttons, and it was really beautiful. And like, I think the largest size was like 42 inches or 45 inches or something. I was like, what the fuck? Who is that? No, it's not okay. We need all bodies should be able to knit. All bodies should be able to make whatever they want. So anyway, I think I'm still kind of narrowing it down, but I did come up with a pattern and it has completely escaped me. I think, what the hell was I gonna make? Of course, it's all in all my open tabs on my phone, which I'm recording on. Does anyone else have like 8 million open tabs in their internet on their phone, or is that just an ADHD thing? Yeah, I have a lot, because if I close it, then I'll never remember and I'll never find it again. So anyway, so yeah, I bought Knitting for Olive. When we walked in the door, I was accosted by like wall of La Bien-Aimée yarn. I have never purchased La Bien-Aimée because the price point has always just been fucking outrageous. Like, I think her yarn is beautiful, but like, just because it's dyed in Paris, I don't feel like allows you to mark it up by $10 a skein or $15 a skein sometimes, like compared to regular indie dyed yarn. I have never been able to reconcile myself with it. However, Unit Toronto was very kind and decided to host a 20% off sale on the day that I was there. It was an Easter sale, but it was really because they knew I was coming and they wanted me to spend all my money. So with the 20% off, the La Bien-Aimée came down to like pretty close to the regular price of an indie dyed skein of yarn. So this is how I justified it in my head. I have always been in love with the floral morganite color of theirs, and I had never seen it in person. It's coming up more pink on the screen because my lighting is a little weird. It's more light coral than this, but like I said, I had never seen it in person because it's really hard sometimes with neons and photos and your screen and their screen to see what the actual color is like. Like that's not the actual. It's maybe a little bit better back here. It is a neon coral. It is not a neon hot pink. It is so amazing. They didn't have 100-gram skeins. The reason I have two 50-gram skeins is they didn't have any 100-gram skeins, so I had to buy two 50s. I wanted to at least have a full skein. I haven't decided what I'm gonna make with it. Maybe a tank top, maybe a muscle bra, maybe a brownstone beanie if that one blocks out and looks okay. Probably not. I don't really enjoy the whole like knit and then fold it over and then knit this way and then knit that way. That's not my favorite style. If I make a hat with it, it'll probably be a muscle bra. But yeah, I couldn't resist when I saw it in person. I just carried it around the store with me the whole way. And then I really blew my wad. Again, 20% off sale. So brought it down to like regular. I still spent too much money, but I was holiday yarn shopping. So nobody's judging me, right? You all know what it's like to go into a yarn store and see a sample and try on that sample and think it's so beautiful and I need to make this and I need to make it in this color, and they just happened to have a basket full of the yarn that they had used to make that sample right beside that sample, which made it really easy for me to purchase the yarn to make that sweater. It was very handy, very nice of them to set that up that way. So I found the sample sweater is called the Violetta. Can't remember if it's Violetta pullover or Violetta sweater. I don't remember. I'll put a picture of the Ravelry photo up here, which would never have caught my eye. I would have been like, eh, and kept going. But there were 3 samples of this sweater made in different colors, different yarns. This one was made with, you're never gonna guess, fingering and mohair held together. For my favorite combination of all time. And it was in this color. This is La Bien-Aimée, and the colorway is called High Garden, and it is just, it's showing more beige in my shitty lighting today. It's much warmer. It's a really warm, blushy pink, which if you've been here long enough, you know that is my jam. I took a picture of the sample. I'll put that picture up here. The picture, again, the lighting kind of sucked in there, so it looks like a beige sweater, but it's made with this beautiful blush pink that's maybe a little bit more accurate back there. So I had to buy I had to, you guys. And so now, like, I'm trying to knit these fucking sleeves, and all I can think about is, oh, look at this. The struggle is real. So those are the things that I bought in Toronto. And it was really nice it's always really, really nice to meet someone in person who you've been talking to on the internet for a really long time and them be exactly who you expected them to be. Like, it's really nice to not only just have an internet friend, but like then meet them in person and you instantly like each other and like know that you would totally be friends if you lived in the same city. So it was very nice. So I don't know if Sheena is watching this, but hi Sheena. Yeah, so that is, I believe, all of my knitting content for today. So if you're wanting to sign off now, I will try not to hold it against you, but I don't make any promises. And yeah, happy knitting, and may the odds be ever in your favor. I don't know how to sign that off really. So I will just jump forward into how my life has been going lately. Yeah. It's been a little rough. I'm trying, again, not to be Debbie Downer and just be a sad sack. But my hands, if you're new here, I've been struggling with swelling and pain in my hands, all the joints in my fingers, my knees, my ankles, my toes, it's now shoulders and like my neck. Anyway, my fingers and my hands had gotten so bad that I had to make the very, very difficult decision. I'm trying not to cry. Guys, I'm an ugly crier, so I really don't want to cry on the internet because it's not cute. I'm not like one of those that's like, oh, it's a perfect tear and everything looks fine. I'm an ugly crier. Anyway, I had to decide to, I had to quit my job as a yarn dyer. If you've been here for any amount of time, you'll know that I absolutely loved working as a yarn dyer at Polka Dot Creek. I loved working with Shelly. I loved working with all of them. Fuck. Anyway, my hands got so bad. Like, it's a very manual job. My job was basically like, I would soak the yarn, squeeze the yarn, put it out, like lifting pots. Mostly it was the squeezing that was really, really hard on my hands because my hands were just so inflamed and whatever. So anyway, I had to make that decision. I was also like a terrible employee. So I think it was probably for the best for me, and it was the best for Shelly because she's so generous and kind, and I mean, she probably would have fired me eventually and was probably already wrestling with that decision because like this year we were trying to like just a month or two ago, they were trying to put together this schedule for the summer, and like this psychopath needs like 7 weeks off over the spring and the summer. Like who needs 7 weeks off? Who asks their employer for 7 weeks off when they work part-time 2 days a week? Like, I didn't make it easy on Shelly at all. I was like, the running joke was that I was the least reliable employee because my kids would always get sick on one of the 2 days that I would work, and then I wouldn't be there. And we like to travel. We go away a lot, and so anyway, I think she had probably already been wrestling with that, like, I don't want to fire her, but she's just basically not showing up for her job ever. So anyway, I still absolutely love Shelly, and I love Krista and Candace and Jessie and Susan and Karen and all of the wonderful ladies that work there, and I'm still definitely planning on going out there to visit whenever I can, but unfortunately my hands were not allowing me to do that work anymore. So yeah, that is the biggest life update. I mean, yeah, we went on holidays and other things have happened, but that has been the biggest adjustment for me over the last, I don't know how long it's been now. That happened just like a week before we went away, and then we were away for like a week and a half, and then it's been half a week, so it's been like three weeks-ish. This week it has been really obvious. Like the week before we left, we were very busy. My oldest son was in hockey playoffs. They went all the way to, they won, I think I talked about this last time. They won the South Calgary Championship, and then after that they went to a one game winner takes all city championship against the team that won the North, and they won. So he's got like, after the game they got city championship hats. It was just like they won the Super Bowl. It was really cute. It was very exciting. So anyway, there was a lot of hockey games. There was a lot of like packing and planning and getting ready to go on our trip. And then we were away on our trip. And then, so it hadn't really, I mean, it had sunk in that I wasn't going to work anymore, but this week has been particularly like, okay, I'm going to drop off my kids and I would normally be going to work now, and I'm just gonna go home, I guess. So I've been wrestling a little bit with that. But I do have a positive, well, somewhat positive update on my hands. Well, sort of. When we were in Colombia, as I said, it was awful. My hands were awful. And my knees really started hurting while we were in Colombia. I was really having a lot of trouble sleeping because anytime I would try to move my legs, my knees would be on fire. And then once we got to Toronto, it was just, everything was hurting. My shoulders started hurting in Colombia when we would be in the pool a lot because it was so hot. You just had to be in the water. And whenever I was going like this, or especially if I was going like this, like my shoulders were starting to hurt. When we got to Toronto, my feet really started swelling a lot because we were doing a lot of walking around. My knees, like I was hobbling around. Like I looked like an very old lady trying to walk around. Anytime I would sit down for any amount of time, it would just be pain all over my body standing up. Anyway, lots and lots of pain, massive, like just everything was inflamed, everything was painful. So I went back to my doctor again on Tuesday, and she has given me another stress dose of steroids, which is amazing. I took one. You're supposed to take them in the morning so they don't keep you up at night, and I couldn't get in to see her until 4, and I got to my pharmacy and got the prescription by like 4:45, and I just popped one right in the parking lot because I was like, I don't care if I'm up all night, and within 24 hours all of the pain was gone, all of the swelling was gone, and like my hands look normal. They look normal today. They, like, this one was like this big, probably. This is the worst one. It was about, yeah, that big. And just like, this was about as far as I could. And now, like, look at that. Ha! So fun. We were having dinner last night, and Dave looked over at me and he's like, look at you just like using your fingers and hands and stuff. So obviously it had gotten so bad that he could tell the difference between my ability to use them. Anyway, so my doctor said she was going to call the rheumatologist again and urge him to see me sooner again. My appointment is in May, and yay, I got a phone call this morning while I was at Walmart, and he's going to see me next week. So thank goodness I will finally be able to get into the rheumatologist and hopefully get the diagnosis, and hopefully just come up with a plan to get me on some proper meds so that I'm not just like, I don't know what he's gonna do, but I really hope that he can bring some relief and some I don't know, some proper meds so that I'm not in pain constantly all the time. Yeah, we went to Colombia. As I've mentioned, it was lovely. We really loved it. As I've said before, we speak Spanish. My boys are both in Spanish bilingual school, so we try to go to Spanish-speaking countries whenever we can. We hadn't been to this one. Well, Dave went last year for work, but this was our first family vacay in Colombia. We stayed in Cartagena, and we stayed in a great hotel with pools, and it was on the beach. We didn't spend a lot of time on the beach because it was not the hotel didn't like own that section of the beach. So there was, the second you walked onto the beach, there was just constant vendors trying to get you to buy their stuff and massages, and it was constant the entire time you were on the beach. Every 5 minutes there's someone asking you to buy something, which is fine. I totally get it. They're just trying to survive and whatever, but it was like, we spent a lot of time in the pools. We went for lots of sunset walks on the beach. That was really nice. And we did a couple tours. We went into Cartagena is a really, really, really old city. I mean, it has a lot longer history than is documented, obviously, because there were indigenous people living there long before the Europeans discovered it. The old city was really beautiful. It's a lot of colorful buildings. I'm hopefully putting up a bunch of pictures of like all the colorful houses and doors and like it was beautiful. It's a little jarring, the history there. It was like, Cartagena, Colombia is the very tip of South America. So it was a major port. It was like, I don't know. I'm not good at describing historical things, but there were a lot of pirates. The Spanish came, the Spanish like colonized, and they set up like the entire old town, which is the original city that was built, is all fortified. It's like a fort. There's a wall all the way around it, with cannons at the top. My kids thought the cannons were really cool. We did a walking tour of the old town, and like we got to one square, and it was like, oh, this week it was Holy Week, and during Holy Week they have festival of sweets in this big square in front of the building where you used to have to pay your taxes to the Spanish government, and in the square where they used to sell the enslaved people who had just arrived on a boat from Africa. Like, it was jarring. It was like, do you want to buy some candy? Or, you know, like, it was it's kind of hard to reconcile a little bit, but a lot of history. Like, I mean, there was a lot of the Spanish Inquisition was very active there. We went to a square, and he was like, this spot right here where there was a statue of Simón Bolívar, who helped free Colombia from the Spanish. He helped with the independence. Anyway, it's a statue of a man in the spot where they used to burn witches in the Spanish Inquisition. So it was like, oh, and also here's the Emerald Museum. And also this is the building where they hold Miss Colombia, Miss Universe. And like, I was like, oh my God. Anyway, it was beautiful. The Colombian people are beautiful and friendly, and I really enjoyed that part of it. We also went on a boat tour to the Rosario Islands, which is about an hour boat ride out from Cartagena. And the beach and the water where we were staying wasn't like nice white sand beaches. Like, it was nice warm water. It's the Caribbean, but the Rosario Islands is, I think it was like 25 or 26 or 27 like teeny tiny little islands in the middle like of a reef, and like beautiful, the crystal blue Caribbean water that you picture when you think of the Caribbean. So we went on a tour there. It was all day. We drove over for like an hour and like rode around in the boat through all the islands. We stopped on one of the islands for lunch, and we stopped in like the crystal blue water where you could see all the way down to the bottom, and like the boys were jumping off the front of the boat into the ocean, and it was really nice. We were jumping off, like my husband was like, I've never seen you get in the ocean that many times before. I'm like, well, that's because usually the ocean that we're at is at our cabin on Vancouver Island, which the water is like maybe 5 degrees Celsius, and I don't go in past my ankles. So this was like jumping into a bathtub. So it was quite nice. Yeah, the only bad thing was I got massively glutened on like our first full day there. So we arrived one day, and then the next day we were having a pool day, and I mean, it's nobody's fault but mine. The concept of gluten-free eating is not a thing in Colombia, I suspect, really anywhere in South America, because I don't know. I don't know why, but it doesn't seem to be a thing down there. So even like I tried to explain it one day about how I can't eat anything that has wheat in it or whatever, and it was just like, I was like, do you have anything that doesn't have wheat in it? And he's like, well, you could probably have this, and it had all these different sauces. And I was like, well, did the sauces have, like, it's just a whole thing, and I don't want to be that person that's like, can I see a list of ingredients in the sauce that you're putting on this and all that? So I was just like, I was trying not to be that person. But I was also trying to just like take a chance, I guess. Anyway, we were by the pool, and the boys were having like fries and popcorn chicken, and part of the menu was nachos, and it said corn tortillas with pico de gallo and guacamole, and I was like, I mean, none of those things are usually anything that have gluten in it, so I took a risk, and it didn't go well. The corn tortilla, I'm pretty sure it was the tortillas that probably were an equal mixture of corn and flour and whatever, and I paid the price big time. I was in the hotel room for the rest of the afternoon and contemplating how can I get home right now? How do I not spend the rest of the week here? But I was feeling much better the next day, and I just had to revert to my previous method of eating before I was diagnosed as celiac. I probably should have said that at the beginning. I am celiac. So before I was diagnosed as celiac, I didn't know what was wrong with me. I had massive stomach trouble, and everything I ate, I felt like made me sick. And so there was very little that I basically just ate rice and chocolate. And I know that's not healthy. I fully acknowledge that it was an eating disorder that was driven by anxiety over how my stomach was going to react to anything that I ate. But yeah, strides have been made. I was diagnosed with celiac. My doctor told me you just need to eat more fiber. You need to take Metamucil every day, all that kind of stuff. So everything was back to normal. So I just had to spend the rest of the week in Colombia eating like I did before, not taking risks, drinking Metamucil every day, and yeah, got through it. It was fine. Yeah, and then had an amazing dinner in Toronto when we got back. That was something that I knew that I could trust, and it was so good, and it was like, yeah. Anyway, that was the only kind of downside to that trip. Some very big highlights for the boys were, well, for Tate in particular, he has had a wiggly molar for quite a long time, and it came out while we were in Colombia. And the exchange rate in Colombia is 3,000 pesos to $1 Canadian. So he was very excited because the tooth fairy found him in his hotel room in Colombia and left him 15,000 pesos. Like $5. We don't pay no. The tooth fairy pays extra for molars because they're bigger and they're harder to get out. So $5 for a molar. So he was very excited to go home and tell all his friends that he got 15,000 pesos for his tooth. The Easter Bunny also found them when we were in Toronto in the hotel. So that was also very exciting. On the day that I went to meet Sheena at for coffee and then go to the yarn store, the boys went to the Hockey Hall of Fame. So I managed to squeak my way out of that so I could go do something I wanted to do, which was nice. But a highlight of going to the Hockey Hall of Fame for them is that Dave's grandma is in the Hockey Hall of Fame. She was the first goalie ever, first documented goalie to ever wear a mask in a game. The first, everyone, I mean, if you don't know hockey history, you're not going to know this, but the general consensus is that Jacques Plante was the first goalie to ever wear a mask in a game. But he was the first goalie to wear a mask in an NHL game. Dave's grandma, Elizabeth Graham, she was a goalie at Queen's University, and she had had some dental surgery or something, and her parents were like, you need to wear a mask at this hockey game because you just had this really expensive dental surgery. So they didn't want her messing up her face with the puck. So yeah, anyway, she is, they stood in front of there was a display about the history of the goalie mask, and she is written in the first paragraph as the first documented hockey goalie to wear a mask in a game. So that's pretty cool. Yeah, so we also went up the CN Tower and did all the touristy CN Tower aquarium. We went to our Toronto Raptors NBA game on the last night we were there, which was really fun. Calgary has a professional basketball team here now. It's not the NBA. I can't remember what they call the league, if it's CBA or something. It's a Canadian professional basketball league. It's sort of equivalent to how the CFL and the NFL kind of, so the Canadians have, so we've been to a couple of, we've been to one of those games, but this was different. This was an actual NBA game. The Raptors were playing the Philadelphia 76ers, and it was really fun. It was a cool vibe. There's a lot of music and dancing and the cheer team. I wasn't even scowling at the cheerleaders because the cheer team was half women and half men, and it was very it wasn't just all white women dancing, and there was a lot, it was good. There were some kid cheer teams, it was really fun. And by some stroke of luck, Maestro Fresh West was entertaining at halftime, and when my husband, if you've never heard of him, I'm sure you know the song Let Your Backbone Slide. That's Maestro Fresh West. He's a Canadian rapper, and when they announced that he was going to be entertaining at halftime, I thought my husband's head was going to explode. So he loved that. It was awesome. So yeah, that was lots of fun. So now we're home and the boys are back at school. Thank God. I mean, it's lovely to go on family holidays, but being together 24 hours a day is a lot. And so I have really been enjoying dropping them off at school and coming home and just being yeah. That's not gonna last for long because we have to move out of our house next weekend. Not this weekend, but next weekend. We have to move out because the people who bought our house are taking possession on Monday the 15th. So I've been taking this week to just decompress, relax. My fingers are feeling way better because I got my steroids, so I'm knitting as much as possible while I can, and I'm just trying to do that. Next week I'll be prepping, like I don't have to pack the whole house. Our movers are going to pack because I knew that it would be really hard on my hands for me to pack the whole house and whatever. So I just have to do some prep stuff for before they come to pack, like take all the stuff off the walls and like just general stuff. So I'll be doing that next week. And then we move out. We're moving into Dave's mom's house for the interim. So it's gonna be a longer drive, but it'll hopefully be less than 2 weeks, hopefully. That's the other thing that I've been doing, is just coordinating all of the things that we're having done in the new house after we get possession of that. We're painting and replacing some flooring and stuff. So I've got 3 different tradespeople companies that I'm trying to coordinate with, and that's been a lot, plus like all the, you know, forwarding your mail and changing your address for the power and the internet and like all that stuff. So that's fun. Yeah, so that's pretty much all that's going on these days. The fiber shindig is coming up this weekend on Saturday, and I am planning to go to that. I've had a few people ask me if I'm going. I didn't really want to announce. I am going. I just don't know what time. My son has hockey in the morning. He's just doing like a spring once a week on the ice, just to keep him on the ice once a week in the morning. And then my mom is thinking about coming because there's a booth that has a bunch of like embroidery, floss, cross stitch stuff that she would like to come see. So that would be really great. But Calgary is being Calgary and it's blizzarding, so it depends how much it snows in between, because it's about an 1.5 hour drive for her to get from where she lives to here. So if it snows too much, she might not come. So if she comes, I'll probably be there in the afternoon. If she doesn't come, I'll probably just come home after hockey and then go. So it'll probably be like mid to late morning. So I'm not quite sure. But if you're planning on going and would like me to let you know when I'm going to be there, just send me a DM on Instagram or just drop a note down here. It's kind of hard for me to contact people on YouTube because it's easier on Instagram, but whatever works for you. Yeah, so I think I am going to sign off now, and I should go work on the sleeve of my front porch sweater, but I'm pretty sure I'm just gonna go knit on my blanket for the rest of the day because that's what I want to do, and it's my time and I get to do whatever I want, so. Okay, so this is my last podcast from this knitting room. So thank you everyone for having joined me for the last year and a little bit in this knitting room. I am going to have a pretty fabulous knitting room in the new house. So yeah, so next time you see me, I don't know how long it'll be because we're moving out of this house in 1.5 weeks, and then it'll probably be another 2 weeks before we get into the new, like before we're living in the new house. So I don't know if I'll be able to podcast in the interim. So it might be a little while, but hopefully I'll make it worth it. I don't know. Thank you for sticking around, and I hope you have lots of fun knitting to do, and I will see you next time.